Hello, my name is Jim Luken, and today we're out here at Lewis Ocean Bay Heritage Preserve in Horry County, South Carolina. What we're doing out here today is we're going to look at and learn a little bit about the importance of prescribed burning in this particular nature preserve. Behind me right now we can see an area that was just burned a couple weeks ago, and so what I want to do today is look at some of these places that were recently burned, talk about why fire is so important in this particular nature preserve, and then also talk about some of the complicating factors that are contributing to the management of this particular nature preserve. So let's go look at one of these areas that has been recently burned and talk about the effects of fire. So one of the dominant plants out here at Lewis Ocean Bay is this grass. It's called wiregrass. Wiregrass is a bunch grass. It's one of these plants out here that's fire adapted, and what we mean by that is it actually does better if it's periodically burned off. And what you can see out here in this spot, like I said, that was burned about 2 weeks ago, is the wiregrass was completely burned up, but already you can see it vigorously sprouting back. Studies have shown that when wiregrass is burned, it's more vigorous, the foliage has more nutrients in it, and so by and large, frequent burning is good for wiregrass. The reason why wiregrass is so important is it provides food and habitat for a variety of animal species, but more importantly, if you let this particular kind of ecosystem go without fire, a lot of the woody plants start coming in and they'll eventually shade out the wiregrass. And so to get a nice vigorous stand of wiregrass, you got to have that frequent burning. Prescribed fire also has a very significant impact on pine trees. Here, of course, we see one that was actually burned and killed by fire, but that's okay, because what happens when you have prescribed burning in these pine stands is that the fire will selectively eliminate some of the smaller trees, and you can sort of see the ones that have been browned out by the fire. They'll probably die, but that's good because that's a natural thinning process, and what that does, it allows the trees that do remain to grow better and to be more healthy. So we've talked about the understory plants, we've talked about the trees. What about the soils? So the soils out here at Lewis Ocean Bay are very nutrient poor, sandy soils. In fact, one of the paper companies that used to own this site actually got rid of the property because the pine growth was so slow. But let me just tell you, with prescribed burning, it actually improves the nutrient status of the soil, because all of that dead material, the leaf material, the bark and things like that are instantly burned, and the nutrients go into the soil and they're cycled much more rapidly when you have this prescribed burning. So prescribed burning is important also for nutrient cycling in these very poor, nutrient poor sands. So you walk out here after one of these prescribed burns and you see a patch of woody plants like this sand live oak right here. You might think, well, these are dead and they're going to be eliminated from the system, but that's probably not the case. A lot of these low growing woody plants like this sand live oak and many of the other shrubs are top killed by prescribed burning, but they'll resprout very quickly. And it's really quite amazing if you come out to one of these burned areas about a year later and see how quickly almost all of these woody plants resprout after one of these prescribed burns. Most importantly though, what it does, of course, is it keeps the stature of these woody plants down so it doesn't shade out this wiregrass. So almost everything in this system is adapted to fire. The grasses, the shrubs, trees, and the soils also get involved in the process. So just to give you some sense of how quickly these systems recover after a fire, here's Adolfo down here standing in one of these pine stands that was just burned a couple weeks ago. And if we look on the other side of the road, there's a pine stand that was burned last year. And so look how quickly things recover and come back after these fires. So one of the reasons why people travel from all over the world to come to Lewis Ocean Bay Heritage Preserve is to see the carnivorous plants that grow out here. We have Venus flytraps, pitcher plants, we have sundews, we have butterworts, we have orchids, which aren't carnivorous plants, but still great selection of rare plants out here. And let's talk about what burning does as far as these plants are concerned. Here's a patch of purple pitcher plants. You can see the fire pretty much just burned the tops off the pitcher plants, but don't be concerned because fire is actually good for these plants. You can see this plant is being stimulated to send up a flowering shoot, and this plant will resprout from below ground structures, and because of, again, those nutrients being released back into the soil, these plants will actually flower. They'll grow better as a result of the prescribed burnings. And right here in front of me is one of the fire lines that have been plowed out here at Lewis Ocean Bay Heritage Preserve. The entire preserve has been divided up into what are called burn units, and these plowed fire lines mark the boundaries of these burn units. And so South Carolina DNR has done a very good job of setting this place up for prescribed burning. So hopefully I've convinced you all how important prescribed burning, or actually any type of burning, is for maintaining the integrity of the type of ecosystem we have out here at Lewis Ocean Bay Heritage Preserve. However, we have some issues that make it, and are continuing to make it, more and more difficult to do the burning. Keep in mind that when the managers do prescribed burns, the conditions have to be almost perfect. The wind has to be right, the humidity has to be right, the temperature has to be right, and the fuel loads have to be right for them to do a burn. And of course, there's always going to be the issue of liability, since a prescribed burn can sometimes get out of control and cause problems to surrounding areas. The types of development that go on around Lewis Ocean Bay Heritage Preserve have to be compatible with prescribed burning. And when I say compatible, I mean houses shouldn't be too close. The types of developments and the types of human activities that are going on there should be aware of and should be able to handle smoke and the occasional wildfire. And all of these things need to be taken into consideration if indeed some sort of development is going to be happening around this preserve, because as I said before, Lewis Ocean Bay must be burned. It's a fire-prone system. If it's not burned, the risk of catastrophic wildfire just increases. And so what happens in the preserve is almost as important as what happens around the preserve.